Not yet.
Welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. Every 2 weeks, we showcase a different topic and have different expert panelists join us. It's not rehearsed, I can tell you that. And you guys, the live audience, get to ask us your burning questions about the topic in hand. I'm Adiola Sol, Senior Consultant at Holistic Email, and I'm your host and moderator for Email and More. With me today, I have the lovely Kath Pay. She's back. CEO. She's the CEO of Holistic Email Marketing. I've got Kate Creamer of Framer. Say hey. You're going to give them a wave. There we go. And the famous Elliot Ross of Taxi for Email. Beep, beep. Give us a wave.
Hello.
There he is. This is our crew today. And our topic today is helpful marketing. And whilst you're typing your questions into the Q&A area, I'll ask the panelists to quickly introduce themselves, because obviously my intro wasn't good enough. We need to hear it straight from them. So let me see, who am I going to pick? Kate, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so I'm super happy to be here, first of all. Obviously, a ton of my favorite people in the industry, so I'm so pleased to be with you all. A little context around what I do. I'm the CRM marketing manager at Framer. We're a design prototyping company. I moved this year to Amsterdam for this job because I love design and I love email. And I think working in email in the SaaS industry is particularly interesting. So the things that I love doing basically in my job are helping people use our design tool better, making their lives easier. And that's honestly why I was really excited to jump on this panel. I think helpful marketing is really important and exciting. So delighted to be here.
Amazing. And what's it like being in Amsterdam at the moment? When did you move? Did you move? You must have moved before.
I did. I moved, my first time in continental Europe was December 31st, 2019. I landed, started my job on January 6th, and then of course quarantine hit mid-March. So
Wow.
It's been a wild ride. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't change a thing. It's the right.
I mean, there's worse places to be stuck in, and Amsterdam definitely isn't one of
Yes.
them. You're very lucky there. And Elliot, who's on mute.
Sorry, I was Instagramming this.
You're such a social butterfly. Elliot, tell us about yourself.
So I'm Elliot Ross. I'm CEO for Taxi for Email and also managing director for an agency called Action Rocket. And I've done email for quite a long time, maybe 15, 20 years or something. It's quite a long time. Yes. So I've worked at various ESPs and brands and agencies, and then ended up sort of freelancing and making my own agency, and then building Taxi, which is a sort of tool that helps people make email.
I've used Taxi. It's great.
Oh, cool.
Love it. All right.
Always good to hear.
Everyone knows Kath, but Kath, do you want to give it a little?
Just a quick one. Yeah, so I'm CEO of Holistic Email. I work with Adiola. We do a holistic email marketing is basically a consultancy, and we take the holistic approach. I have been doing email marketing for well over 20 years now, and digital marketing for even longer. Yes, I am old. Yes, we've got that bit. You can't say the 20-year mark without sort of giving away your age. But yeah, I mean, like these guys, you know, I'm incredibly passionate about email, and I absolutely love these Email and More sessions, and we get to just natter and talk all about email and sort of answer some very intriguing questions often. So I'm looking forward to today.
So I'm going to kick off with this one. What do you all mean by helpful marketing? Is there a definition that we can all agree on?
Ooh,
I know, right?
I'm gonna harken back to the tweet that I posted earlier today. I'm gonna quote my own tweet.
We like it.
Strong start. I think marketing should give before it takes. I think, you know, if you're really marketing the right thing to the right people, then whatever you share, whatever context, information, deals, whatever, you share with them should be something that they welcome and that they think is going to add to their lives fundamentally.
Yeah, like that. That's good.
Yeah, agreed. Does anybody want to build upon what Kate said?
Yes.
I learned that new build upon from Big Bang Theory. I don't know if anyone watches the Big Bang Theory, but it was a whole thing about building upon what other people say in order to get to a common goal. So it was build upon.
Oh, I like that.
Elliot,
Okay.
please start building, and I'll
Yeah.
build on yours.
Okay. So I can rant about this for, we've got an hour, right? I always kind of try to say that like what we should be doing should be helpful, right? Like, because ultimately everything that we do, if you're being helpful, then every other piece of strategy falls off the back of that. So if you're sitting there thinking, hey, when's the best time to send an email? Or how often should I send an email? Or, you know, all these the kind of common things that come up, is when you can be helpful, how often you can be helpful. If you can be helpful every day, then send an email every day. And yeah, obviously, you know, don't, if you can't, it's the flip side, which is maybe a harder discussion to have sometimes.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, you know, there's two people that we're helping when we're sending email. We send email to help the business, and we send email to help the user. And ideally, we should be doing both. You know, we're not creating art; we're creating a piece of design or whatever that solves a problem, right? And part of the problem is we need to sell something. And part of the other problem is people need to buy stuff, or we need to help stuff with our products, right? So it's a two-way thing. But yeah, like that's when being helpful comes in, right? Because we all know when we're shipping something and we're not being helpful, but we've got someone breathing down our neck saying, you know, the business has got to shift this, so unhelpfully sell it to people.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've been teaching about this for years and years and years, and my concept is basically really, really simple. The way I see it as marketers, not just email marketers, but as marketers, there's two sides of the same coin. The brand needs to meet its objectives, right? Which is generally getting registrants, selling products, whatever the story is. It's got its objectives. The other side of the coin is that the subscribers have subscribed for a reason. They have their own objectives, and they need to buy, they need to attend a webinar, they need to, whatever it is that they need to do. So if we actually start to think about the customer, and we think about how can we help them to achieve their objective, then we by default achieve ours. It's really, really simple. But what it means is that we're going to be creating more palatable, email, a more palatable strategy, a more everything, because people love customer service. People love being helped. So if we can frame it around that, and we can put the customer first and think, how can I help you to achieve? You know, why are you on my list? Why did you subscribe? What is it that you need from us? So we're helping them, and then we in turn will automatically have our needs met, rather than what tends to happen, particularly with email, not only with email, but particularly because we are that push channel. We tend to just push. We tend to focus on our needs, as you're sort of, you know, saying. And so it really is a case of, you know, sure, I understand it, we need it. And as consultants, that's what we have to do. We have to address the brand's needs. We cannot create a strategy without, you know, addressing their needs. But that doesn't necessarily mean that our, you know, it's basically we're creating a strategy about the customer. So yeah,
I like that.
I like that.
You guys built upon each other's points very well. I like this. It's essentially about putting the customer first and ensuring that you're meeting the needs of the customer and creating objectives that more or less center around alleviating customer pain points, and trying to do that before the business, although having the business in mind, because like Elliot said, we're all here for, you know, the cash dollar. But in that essence, let's see how we can obviously be of service, which I think is great. And I do feel like a lot of companies miss that sometimes, and that actually leads into the next question. And just a reminder to anyone that's live, please feel free to type your question away. There is no silly question. You can see we're all a lovely bunch of people, so just ask away. We'll try our best to tackle it for you. So while we're waiting, here's another one. How do I begin with changing over to helpful marketing? It seems both kind of subtle, but also kind of huge. So do I need new technology for it? I don't think new technology is necessary from my point of view, but what do you guys think in terms of how does one begin to look at switching over to incorporate more helpful marketing?
Well, from my perspective, right, you can use technology, but you wouldn't start with technology. You need a change in mindset, your brand's mindset, hopefully your marketing director's mindset, that kind of thing. Because this is the subtle bit, right? So it's kind of like that change in mindset. Okay, instead of focusing on us, and it seems a bit risky, we're going to be focusing on the customer. So, and that is a change in mindset. And how that then eventuates into actual action is now your copy is going to change, right? You're focusing on the customer instead of your needs. So your copy will change subtly, but enough so that it will become more palatable, right? But then there is that lovely technology you can be using, like the real-time, technology, which is providing you with customer services. So you can help them, hey, the weather in Amsterdam today is such and such. It's going to be really hot. Why not pop on down to our cafe or something like this, So now you're using that kind of technology, which is, again, helping you to deliver, a nice, helpful service. And the way, and I've said this in a few other email and mores, because you're going to hear me say this all the time. I do believe that every single email that we send should actually be a customer service led, transactional based message. That's it. Even if we're marketing, even if our objective is to sell for that email, it's how we deliver it. And that's because when they signed up, they had a need. You offered them something, they said, yes, we want to take care of, we want to accept that. And so therefore you're saying now, fab, we're going to meet, that promise that we made to you. And we're going to be giving you valuable information, great products, first to hear deals, all that kind of stuff. So as far as, technology, yes, there is it, but don't start with it. The subtle is there, because starting with the changing mindset and then moving over to, copy and things like that. And it's where the huge bit comes in, I think, is more in the change in the strategy itself, because you might find that you're going to do different programs and stuff.
I completely agree, Kath. And I think, Adiola, to your question about the technology, I think a lot of people get stuck in trying to figure out how do they close the feedback loop to figure out what is actually helpful for their customers. So I think there's this big hang up, right? So you have to have product market fit, first of all. So know who your good customers are. And this is the thing that I think a lot of brands run into, is that they don't understand their product market fit. And so they're trying to market to everyone. And you can't be helpful to everyone because not everyone has the same set of needs. So first of all, you have to understand who your best customers are and what you can do to serve them. And then I think second, about the technology specifically, like obviously it's helpful to be able to get, in my case at Framer, I'm using customer data around like who are our most successful users, how are they using our product, how can we help them do more of that easily. But I have access to a lot of really great data and a team and technology that enables me to do that. But if I didn't, there's still a lot of stuff I can do in terms of getting qualitative feedback. I think a thing that our team does really well that I really value is they do a lot of user testing and interviews and just like have people sit with a product and figure out how they use it. And I think you can learn so much from just 5 or 10 minutes with a customer and just asking them, like, tell me more about your experience. You don't have to have data points on every single thing to be able to understand what the majority of your customers are really interested in. So yeah, technology totally helps, but there's always a place to start. As long as you have good product market fit and you understand who your best customers are, then you can ask them questions in a variety of different ways. It doesn't always have to be this super sophisticated AI-driven data approach.
Yeah, because when I read, do I need new technology, I'm taking that as, does somebody need to go out and adopt a tool in order to become helpful? And the way I see things is you don't always necessarily have to go out and buy something brand new. It's always good to look at what you have and work within your remits first, set your objectives, and then if a tool is necessary, at least the objectives have been set so you can go out and find something that pairs right with what you want to do. But yes, I definitely agree with you, looking at customer insights as well to build upon your strategies and to kind of get that first-hand information as to what it is they like, don't like, pain points, and then you can work around your strategies around that. And that's a nice way to do things. I think it's not something that people do enough, actually, to be honest. You know, when you fill in surveys, you're like, well I filled in a survey, didn't win the iPad, but I haven't seen any changes on your website. So, you know, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Kate, there. Elliot, do you
Yeah, there's a couple of things I was thinking about there. So one thing that's kind of interesting is that Kate mentioned about sort of product market fit and that kind of thing. And quite often, like as marketers, we see all of the email that we send, right? And we see a lot of it because we send a lot of email or whatever, but people in the audience don't see all the stuff we do. So quite often the most helpful, the most useful stuff we do isn't driven by super sophisticated technology. It's just a nice message, or you know, something that is genuinely useful. And in terms of technology, it's made out of images and text, or it's, you know, it's it doesn't have to be whatever, video and email, or yeah, like you said, sort of AI driven whatever, or you know, or even things like AMP for email. Like, so as marketers, sometimes we think, oh, we just send the same boring emails over and over, but they're not boring to our audience because it's the first time that they see them, and they don't see every email that we send all the time. So I think we get this sort of blindness of like sometimes wanting to use technology to brighten the marketer's life up rather than help the audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Truly.
So whether it's helpful is perhaps a good sort of success metric there. You know, like, are we just doing this because we want to look good to our boss, or we want to, you know, do our job a bit better for us? Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
I also think, though, you know, along the lines of that, I think, though, that it's, and you can find reports on this, and we come across this all the time. Brands tend to have budget for technology. Technology is sexy.
Yeah.
Technology is seen as a potential silver bullet. Technology is seen as making the you know, the lives of the marketers easy. You know, and in some cases is, such as, you know, for taxi, right? So little plug. No, but
I can elaborate on that. But I'll let you go on.
That's the whole purpose that it's built for, isn't it? To be helpful. But it sometimes we as marketers need to sort of take the hit and say, oh, actually, we're the ones that have to do this. Yeah. So in my books, yes, you can use you know, technology to help you, but at the end of the day, the strategy, the burden of it is on you, you the marketer, and that's what makes it work. You know, that's because, again, customer service, you can have an AI service and, you know, customer services they do. At the end of the day, though, someone wants to talk to someone, a real person, because their problem can't necessarily be put into a box. So it's the same sort of thing. People like talking to actual people.
Yeah, that's the taxi point is interesting, because I think, not to plug, but we kind of try to go against that kind of, like, there is a certain mentality sometimes when you see it, and this is crude, but it's kind of, oh, we'll spend X amount and it will give us X amount more results, right? Like, bolt on this, do do 10% more design and you'll get 100% more money or whatever. And what we find with Taxi that's interesting is it's about improving the quality of the email that's sent, and quite often that's by getting other people to make it. So you get to bring in people from whatever, social or bloggers or whatever from within the company to write email, but then they write better content. So that's kind of interesting, because that's about making the email more helpful for the end user, right? Like more relevant, more interesting, without often some of the kind of common things that we look at, which is, you know, just do more segmentation or do more, add more personalization. Sometimes that isn't the silver bullet that we think it is.
Yeah,
Which is kind of interesting.
I think, yeah, a lot of people do. I mean, I do love a little bit of personalization and stuff, but you're right. It isn't the one thing fits all. There are different areas in terms of the email process that one can look at and hopefully make an impact. And I think, yeah, not to plug, but that is one thing I enjoyed when I was using Taxi at a client previously, and just having all of those multiple people input. Actually, it was very helpful for the team as well as the customers that received it.
Nice.
So different ways sometimes the customers even see the helpfulness, because we're just more happier when we're pressing send, and that's actually really helpful because then we have more brain capacity the next day to think of some lovely things to send to our lovely customers the next time.
You get to be more creative.
Yeah.
I think that's an underrated point. I think, Kate, we've talked about this before, but, you know, like a happy marketing team, it comes out in their work, right?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds obvious when you say it, but you don't realize it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, it's so easy for me to go back and look at work that I did when I knew I was stressed. And like, I don't even have to know how I was feeling when I wrote something. Like, I can go back and read something and be like, well, clearly I was in no state to be like, as creatives, I think often, like, designers do this, I know, and like, I write a fair amount of copy myself, but there are days when I get to the end of the day and I'm like, oh, I need to get this out the door. And so you find yourself writing, you're like, buy the thing, do the job, like, there it is.
The subject lines become so crude. Open this now.
Yes. Anytime I see like learn more or read more in my own button copy, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a day probably.
Yeah. But yeah, the thing is, I think that helpful marketing is a subset, and it falls in under customer experience marketing, right? And I actually did some research, and we did it last year, and we did a whole kind of looked at thousands of different campaigns and everything, and graded all their emails, different brands' emails, and compared them, and we graded them on 3 factors of customer experience marketing, right? Helpfulness, personalization, and customer centricity. And then we were comparing, you know, so if they were high in that, so, you know, and then we're using e-data source, we looked at the read rate. So, and we found that those that were high in all those 3 factors, helpfulness, personalization, and customer centricity, meant that there was a higher read rate. So, you know, it's kind of, and that then I think gives you that customer experience, which is what we were just talking about, but we were talking about the marketer. So it's a case of, let's have happy marketers, and let's also have happy consumers, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Okay, I think this actually bridges quite nicely onto the next question, which is, can anyone give some examples of helpful marketing? I feel like we have talked around the theory of helpful marketing. We've touched upon everything quite lightly, but we haven't really been so forthcoming with some of those examples. I'm going to kick it off and just get your brain juices flowing. My interpretation of helpful marketing, this is very personal to me, by the way, so don't judge me. But I love it when a brand tells me that my product that I bought 3 months ago is about to run out, and do I need a top up?
Yes.
And
yes.
only do I need a top up, but you're going to give me 15% off plus free shipping. I'm like, woohoo! That for me is incredibly helpful, especially when I'm so blooming busy. You forget. I hate it when I run out of foundation or my favorite makeup product, and it's because I've been too busy to even notice. And so that for me is a winner. Does anybody have any other examples? And that's a replenishment email for those who are watching.
Yeah. So I think most or many of the life cycle emails like that, so the replenishment, back in stock, even cart abandonment, they lend themselves naturally for being helpful. But sometimes we marketers can screw it up and we turn it into sales, right? So that we've taken something that's organically and naturally a helpful marketing one, and then we sort of make it too salesy, and that can turn them off. And so I think we need to sort of keep that in mind. But yeah, the life cycle ones, those ones that are triggered, absolutely amazing. Of course, technology is often needed with that as well. But again, the skill I think is in how to, and I've seen some amazing ones for the replenishment. You know, and it's just, okay, how can we serve up a lovely customer service email? That's what it is.
And I think even things like what's it, like aftercare sales, I don't see enough of them, but I feel like there should be those types of emails. So if you buy a sofa, I feel like there should be a follow-up in terms of how to care for that sofa. You know, how to fight moths, or what product should you use if you've bought a blooming velvet sofa like mine and you put yogurt on it.
Or dog paw prints in my case.
Or when your bronzer cracks and, you know, gets into the, how do you care for it? I feel like if there was an aftercare in terms of big purchases like that, that would be quite helpful. You don't see people doing that very often.
I agree. I think that the aftercare is really important, and where obviously I nerd out is with SaaS emails, because I find that those, like, there's so much nurturing and onboarding, and it's like just getting you to the point of being a customer. But what I really like is when SaaS companies help customers focus on themselves. Like, everybody loves hearing about themselves. So I think Strava does a hell of a job with this. They send you, and Spotify does too for that matter, but they send you your own metrics. So here's what you listen to. These are the genres you might like. Check out all of like your year-end report, or congrats on all of your achievements. Like that kind of email takes so much time to build. Like that is very data centric. The people who put that together have to be so thoughtful about not showcasing the bad bits, for example. And that's been a real challenge for me, having worked in software, where it's like, you don't want to tell someone, well, congratulations, you used this product very poorly for the last year. So, like,
you wasted your money.
Exactly. Having that mindset of like, what information can I share about you that you will find really engaging and compelling and encourage you to do this more. So that's what I think is really helpful in the software world specifically.
I agree with you on that. I remember the end of year report, my friend for Spotify, I had such a robust report, and she had only listened to like 20 hours of music for the whole year.
What?
And she had paid obviously for premium. So she's like, oh, so I spent all this money, and actually I've been reminded that I barely use this thing. So she ended up canceling it because she just thought, well, there's no point. But it goes with your point to, you know, highlighting bad behavior, or, you know, bad bits of data can cause a negative effect for the end user as well.
So in that case, you'd have to say, if hours viewed or listened to are less than. Yeah, exactly. Do not send.
It's hard because those are the people you want to engage half the time, right? Like,
yes, but you take a different approach, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You just
that's when segmentation
comes in. Out big time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you go down the if this then this rabbit hole to a certain extent. Like, how many people are involved here?
Yeah, see how helpful we have to be, guys. So many if rules, just in case.
So I've got two, and one is I like the SaaS stuff, the thing I like about it is there's just such a wealth of data that you can run with, right? Like anything that is not just SaaS, but like yeah, like Strava. It is that SaaS, that kind of app driven stuff, I guess consumer SaaS, if that's a thing. But I'm kind of impressed as a sort of marketer by things that are quite dumb. So like we have a Dyson vacuum cleaner, right? And it emails and says, you probably want to change your filter right now, but it's not an Internet of Things
that. Yes.
like thing, whatever. It's just, well, it's about 6 months since you bought it. Like, so they don't have any data to run with, but they're still being, sending stuff that's pretty useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that a lot. Like,
in theory, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that if I got an email from Roomba that said, hey, you definitely need to change your Roomba because you have dog hair all over your house. It's disgusting by now. I feel like that's sorry?
A little bit too personalized?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Then I have an example of one that's kind of maybe being too helpful, which is I ordered something from Adidas, however you say it, and they
the Brits.
Like, yeah, so where things like Nike, whatever, yeah. A minefield. I think they're being too helpful. So I ordered something and it was delayed. It didn't get packed for 2 or 3 days, and that's probably just the current situation right now, right? There's fewer people in their warehouse, whatever it is. So they sent me an email saying, hey, sorry, this is a little late. Here's 20% off your next order, which is cool. But I feel like they should knock that back by a week in 2020, right? Because they're going to be discounting everything. So if you do want anything, then that's how to get a discount. But like, they're trying to be useful, right? They're trying to build loyalty. They're saying, look, sorry, we did screw up a bit, but like.
Well, I wonder if in that case, they've not actually, that was there. So under normal circumstances, a couple of days late. Yeah, exactly. And they've got that in place, which is brilliant, right? But under these circumstances, people's expectations are things are probably going to be a bit late. So I'm not going to hold them accountable if they're not. And maybe they've just not adjusted their program accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, those are the kind of things you do need to think about too, because But sometimes it is helpful. Is actually, I did an audit for a client, and during this period, it was meant to be delivered in 10 days. It took out 3 weeks or something, and I never got any communication from them for that period, for that whole period. It was crazy. So sometimes it's actually just being in touch with them, isn't it? And just giving them an update as well. So I get what you're saying about Adidas, which is how I say it, Adidas. But the ones because I guess I do a lot of traveling. So the ones I really like are those ones that are incredibly helpful for me, travel wise. The weather's going to be this. Airbnb do great ones as well. You're going to, when you get there, this is what you can be doing, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Some of the train lines here in the UK also do really nice ones. They'll tell you what the weather is, and they'll let you know some, all of that is incredibly helpful, and it is that kind of aftercare. So, sometimes, I guess they're the obvious ones, is the aftercare. There is no overt selling, or sometimes there could be some upselling or cross-selling. But half the time it's just literally delivering upon what has already been purchased. So your aftercare example of the replenishment, there is selling obviously with that, Adiola.
Yes.
But it's still good.
No, I do agree. I think the travel hospitality industry does helpfulness quite well. I remember when I was doing my little tour around Italy, and one of the hotels actually sent me the where breakfast was, where I can find like the chill out area in the hotel and the Wi-Fi for the lobby and my like room code Wi-Fi. And I was just like, this is amazing. I wasn't arriving for like another 2-3 days, but it was just like,
oh wow.
Yeah. So as soon as I got there, I could immediately connect without having to ask, can I use your Wi-Fi? It was just all there on my phone. I felt like such a boss, just ready to go, posting Instagram, living my best life. So yeah, I think hospitality, there are some chains that have nailed helpfulness really well.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything to build? Because actually the next question flies quite nicely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Elliot, did you want to say?
Just that the hotel that we stayed at in the States was just really good with that. I think it was I'm gonna eat my words now because I did say bad things about them in a talk, but it was like it's like an Instagram, it's like a Marriott hotel, but it's for the millennials.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
in
can't remember what it was
Boston,
called.
yeah.
Yeah. I ended up booking there, and it wasn't for me, but nevertheless, it was a new brand, and you could see that like the central CRM component of Marriott had said, right, how are we going to do CRM really well for a completely new brand? And they just aced email. Like, you know, you got there's an email ready for you, but also all the way through the sequence of like, hey, you're in Boston, here's a bunch of stuff that's useful, you know, all the way, you know, you might want to get breakfast now, all this kind of stuff. Like, they just really did it well. And you could just see, because they sat down in, you know, whatever, 2018, 2019 and thought from scratch, how do we do this without a whole load of legacy nonsense to do?
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting, and that's when it comes to with the they sat there with the customer in mind, and they've created that strategy.
Yeah, Moxie.
What we're
Called the
talking about.
Moxie. Yeah.
I feel like I stayed in that version in Italy, in Rome.
Yeah, they're a chain. I've many things to say about them.
Very Instagrammy, but I didn't have the best experience. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was okay.
I would love to work with the Marriott group, by the way. I would just put that out there.
Yeah. Great. Right in the heart of Rome, lovely, attentive. The lights come on as you walk into the room. That was freaky. So yeah, okay, now this lens quite nice. Okay, so where's the line between helpful and overbearing? We all have an overbearing person, marketeer, brand in our life. So where do we kind of like draw the line?
Who do I want to throw under the bus that I don't want to work with?
I'm going to talk about conceptual things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who you want to throw under the bus?
There's this cool brand, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, Weatherspoons don't do email, right? So we could talk about them.
No, it's all frequency though. Like, I think it's kind of the same thing with like.
It was just about, yes, agreed.
Yeah, like it's your friends, and Val Geisler always talks about this as well. Like, she and I nerd out about the dinner party theory, where your marketing should feel like you're attending a dinner party and building relationships with the people around you, your customers. And like, it's pretty easy to tell in a social situation with most people when you're being too much, or like you're asking too much of someone, or you're trying to sell yourself too much. The number of times that I hear about multi-level marketing schemes from high school friends who I haven't heard from years, like that's I don't mind hearing about that from people who I know and love and who already have relationships with me. But if I can tell that you're just reaching out about this like very personal thing to try to sell something to me, it's inauthentic, and that's so transparent. And I think it's the same like in your relationships with your customers. Like, think about frequency, and if you're genuinely trying to be kind, or if you're just reaching out because you're trying to get something.
I totally agree. I think there's one like beauty retailer in the US. It's not, I don't think it's so well known, but I bought a product from there once, and I'm inundated with campaigns daily, sometimes twice a day, and it's pushing the same promo. It's pushing the same 15% off, 50, like, you know, it's almost like, and it's like, hurry up, last chance, end soon. But then a month later, we're still talking about the same. So for me, it's, you know, it becomes a nuisance. And I know they're probably, and they throw in a few recommendations in there, so I can see that they're trying. But it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, guys, you're not actually doing any form of segmentation. It's very much batch blast, and it's whoever opens, whoever buys, and that's when it becomes a bit overbearing.
Yeah.
Not looking at who's engaging, who's not engaging, and removing those people off, because it then becomes not helpful. Everyone loves a discount code, but if you can see someone's not responding to it, leave them alone.
Yeah. They need to be taking a different angle. They need to understand that you've got different needs and requirements, and what is that, you know, start exploring why these people aren't, and let's take a different tact and all the rest of it, or give them a bit of a break. And then what's that saying, sort of, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Who knows?
Yes, I love it. You managed to get a dating theory in there, so now you have done it, and so has Skip. Another dating reference by the end of the year.
Elliot, do you have specifics?
It's not specifically email, but just like you mentioned skincare there, there's this kind of trend that you see at the moment, especially, and it's it's brands that have got people to be sort of micro influencers. So you mentioned, like, you know, having friends that are like multi-level marketing schemes and things. It's broadly in that space, right? Like, there's the idea of like you can be, you know, get on Facebook and try and sell these things to your friends or whatever, but you know, and then not massively averse to that, but I think sometimes brands use it as a way to sidestep being responsible, because a GDPR violation from one person marketing to 20 of their friends isn't worth anyone getting upset about. But having that done at scale to hundreds of thousands of people via lots of 20 groups of friends has massive benefits to a brand.
That's true.
So there's a bit of sort of weird arm's length stuff going on there, and I think that's yes, it's not necessarily email, but there's something in there that I feel a little shady. The kind of, we'll get someone at arm's length to do something dodgy, and you probably see that in email a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think all of these are great points, and we've actually got a question from our audience from Anthony. Hi, Anthony. I'm gonna give you a wave, make you feel famous. All right, so here's Anthony's question. Does the panel have any suggestions for how we might measure how helpful a marketing campaign was?
Oh, I have a good one, actually. I learned this at Litmus Live years ago, and it's like, it is totally a vanity metric, but I think probably as close to helpful as you're going to get out of any vanity metric. And I wish I could remember the speaker's name. It truly was like 2015, I think, but she called it her North Star metric, where she was basically looking at the number of email clicks minus the number of email unsubscribes divided by number of email opens. And the reason that she used this as her North Star metric, she was like, look, at the end of the day, like, we're measuring that information for every single email. And that gives us a pretty good gauge on, like, of the people who opened this particular email, how many found something valuable enough to click versus how many said, nah, this doesn't help me, I'm going to unsubscribe. And it's like, it's not advanced. There are no like heuristics there. It's super, super simple. But honestly, I've found that that's usually a pretty consistently valuable indicator of business metrics down the road.
To say it one more time, so that just in case Anthony was rushing to get a pen and paper and you did it too quick, right? So now he's got pen and paper. Say it again. Say it again.
All right. So it is
Elliot's writing it down too.
For any given email, or for all of your emails in a week, if you want to look at it, it's just number of unique email clicks. So people who clicked on something in the email minus the number of people who unsubscribed, divided by total number of people who opened an email.
I quite like that.
It's simple, but it's pretty well.
I'm going to try that.
Makes sense. Yeah, I love how marketers, we really do make up our own KPIs. I think it's great. And then Cass, you have, does open reach and click reach come into this or no? Is that
Well,
a good measurement?
yeah, no, it does, because so
It's
open reach.
one that was co-created by the great minds within email marketing. So guys that are watching live, this is some juicy stuff. So
Oh,
yeah.
so back in, I don't know when this was, but Skip Fedura, Delaquist, Tim Watson, and I all wrote this, co-authored this white paper on basically what's called open reach, and it's subscriber metrics. And because, you know, you mentioned the vanity metrics, which is really, you know, opens and clicks and everything, because they're not business metrics. And they're what we email marketers would call vanity. It's, you know, nice and easy to measure and everything. At the end of the day, often it doesn't tell you everything. So that's why you always want to be having it being supported by business metrics, such as, you know, conversions and even average order value and all that kind of stuff. But back to my point. So we used to have these huge debates about opens and, you know, are they really worth it? What's this? You know, we're kind of like one of the only channels that are sort of measuring whether people actually open up something, you know. Can you imagine a direct marketing? Yes, we're watching. They're at the letterbox. They're opening up the letter now, or the, you know, the direct mail now, right? So that doesn't happen. But then what we're talking about here is engagement. And so engagement is very much a subscriber metric as opposed to necessarily a business metric, right? Yeah. And so on that basis, open reach is, or click reach and or both are quite applicable. And open reach is simply what you do is over a period of time, say 6 months, you measure how much of your database has actually opened once, or however many times, if you want 2, 3 times, that kind of stuff, right? So you're actually seeing how many people did reach over that particular time. So now you're understanding, because, you know, when you see, oh yeah, we've got a 20% open rate, that's not necessarily the same 20% each time. That would be a bit sad if it was, you know. So it's different people each time. And so you're kind of looking at that. So you could be looking at your open reach before you start your helpful strategy, and then look at your open reach after you've done your helpfulness, you know, strategy. And then you can see, have you actually gained more people? Of course, you want to be making sure that your subject lines are following in line with the helpfulness as well. Mm. You know, it's not just your, you know, your helpfulness, your copy, the whole concept, everything behind it. So this is where helpfulness really comes in. It's not just, you know, the first opening paragraph or the call to action. We need to be encapsulating all parts of it. So yeah, good bring up there, Adiola.
Yeah, and do you know what? How can someone find? I'm gonna give you a task, Kath, and I know you're super busy. But at some point this evening, please, for Anthony, can you tweet a link to where they can find?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Right, and does anybody else want to take a stab at answering that question, or are we all good?
No, I've just got one more thing to add, which is, I guess, a little bit of a vanity thing. Again, it's from Litmus Live somewhere along the line. I think it was quite early. I want to say it's like Christina Halvorsen, someone like that, which I may be butchering her name, but that was from 2013. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, and I think it was her. She had the point that, or maybe it wasn't. Anyway, this idea of trust tokens. So every time we do something well, we build up these trust tokens with our user. And then when we do something bad, we lose them again. But it's a lot easier to lose a trust token than it is to build them up. So you spend, you know, and a classic example is you spend all year building them up and then you smash them away again when it's Black Friday. And then chase all the almighty dollar and then ruin your reputation and have to build it all up again. Maybe that's a good way to think about these things, because we do know, you know, deep down when we're chancing our arm a bit, and when we're doing something that is perhaps going to lose us a bit of trust. Ultimately, I think the true metrics, the truly measurable metrics, are the things that that are more affected by being helpful. So if you're not helpful, people will unsubscribe, right?
Yeah.
That's how it will end up. Or, you know, they won't get engaged, or they won't open, or whatever. So it's going to hit those harder metrics, but it's a little bit of a softer thing. And if you don't pay attention to it, then that's where you start getting into problems.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No, sorry, I was going to say this earlier, and it's like, it's really easy to bring up brands that have pissed you off. Really easy. Seriously, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is.
And it's very, very memorable. It's less memorable for you to actually remember people or brands that don't do it, who don't piss you off, who actually make you happy, except for you will keep on buying from them time and time again. But it's that's more subtle, you know, and unless they blow you out of the water like some of the brands have with us today. I mean, we could have mentioned a couple of brands and it's like, okay, yeah, they've done a really, really good job. Well, you did, didn't you, Kate, with some of them? And so I totally think that's a good one. It's kind of like, you know, when you're measuring your metrics, it's almost like looking at the unsubscribe rate too. That needs to be, you know, considered in the good and the bad, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And it's also looking at the unsubscribe rate and then trying to, you know, so I think some marketers will say, oh, that unsubscribe rate was pretty high, and then just forget about it. But it's, you know, kind of uncovering what was it about that email, what was within that content, or where were the most amount of clicks, so that we know to adapt for the next one or do a test on the next one. So you're not just noting that there was an increase or a drop, it's also kind of taking some form of action on those things. Not just looking at the data and then not doing anything about it. So yeah, this has been so juicy. Thanks, everybody. I feel like this is the most robust answer I've ever witnessed on a panel. So Anthony, you must be incredibly happy and feel very special. You've had multiple CEOs and, you know, it's marketing experts here, just give you wisdom. So yes, I think we've got time for a question. This one is quite an interesting question. So the company I work for is very focused on sales and doesn't really think about the end recipient. I love the concept of helpful marketing. So how can I help them to see it differently? I feel like we've kind of whoa, Kate's excited. You're doing what she normally does. When she likes a question, she kind of, you know, okay, ask her first.
Yeah, you literally just saw 5-year-old Kate come out and go, excited about it.
Okay, Kate, take it away.
Yeah, so this is the thing that I love speaking on, because it's the intersection of empathy and emotional intelligence and creativity and data. And this is where I think technology can definitely help, because at the end of the day, so I was having a conversation with a good friend the other day, and we were chatting through different viewpoints on a particular political issue. And we're debating just back and forth, well, I don't know how you could see it this way, and I don't know how you could see it this way. And really, when we boiled down the argument, we realized that we were both building our arguments on many of the same pillars, but we were just prioritizing different kind of results. It's well, yes, we agree on this, we agree on this, we agree on this, we agree on this. I think this is more important, and he thinks this is more important. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of the times that's what we run into as marketers, where we can get buy-in from our peers or our executives in certain contexts, but when it comes down to it, you know, the conversation that people have over and over again is, well, should we be helpful or should we prioritize revenue? And I think that's where a lot of marketers feel that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but really those things aren't mutually exclusive. It's just a matter of pointing back to the data and being able to say, okay, well, yes, I understand that your priority is revenue, and that is also my priority, but I think the way to get there is by being helpful. Yes. So when you can show in your data that you run an A/B test. I mean, this is A/B tests solve arguments around the world every day. Like, say, yes, okay, we're working towards the same end goal. I think this method is maybe a little more successful. Let's test it.
That's it.
It's
the hypothesis. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that way you can point back to the data. You don't have to have those messy conversations. You don't have to die on a particular sword. You can just point to the data and say, here's what we learned. Let's move forward together.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that is so, it's such a great point. I'm a huge fan of testing. I think I talk about testing all the time. And when you're talking about changing and doing a different strategy like this and changing your mindset, even, we talked about personalization as well. Again, all of those things which are not necessarily, yes, you're going to be measuring it on a campaign by campaign basis, but you're also measuring it on an overarching email marketing program basis as well. So therefore, you need to have some of that hard data, the best way of getting that hard data, because can you imagine, okay, well, if we don't do an A/B test, but we've gone and changed everything and we've just gone and done helpful marketing, fantastic. And what we thought we would do is we would just compare last year's with this year's results. Are we looking at apples with apples here? Of course not. We've got COVID. We've got, there's nothing like this year. So was that just because, we have got more people, signed up, whatever. So in this case, that's why the A/B test, you do what you would normally do. That's it, right? That's the kind of email that you're currently sending. And then you'll also then send the helpful marketing version of it. And you're just doing these tests, and don't just do the one test, do it multiple times. Do it on your automated ones, do it on your campaigns, do them continually until you have got resounding, results and very, very clear, statistically confident results that one has won over the other. And then also, if ever it gets questioned in the future, you just go to the data. And sure, things might change. That's fine. Do another test. But
yeah. Also, just practically, if you're in an organization where that stuff generally isn't happening, there's a few things you can do, right? You could just start to sneak in more helpful copy as you're doing stuff. There's some really small changes you can make to start building a bit of a case. Also, if there's not much, if you are very sort of batch and blast, kind of don't want to say old school, but the established way of doing things, I suppose, then there's probably some low-hanging fruit that you get a decent pilot out of. Maybe it's a second brand that you've got somewhere or something like that, where you can say, look, okay, I just want to try here with these things, and you can pick and choose something you think is going to be quite kind of juicy and get you some decent results. Because if there's nothing going on, then there's lots of opportunity. So find something that's going to be, fairly straightforward and easy to get decent results out of. That gets you your case, and then you can start to build from there. Like a lot of this stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to try it, get a bit of buy-in, and sometimes multiple times, but eventually you get there.
No, definitely. I think we are at time. Oh, that was so quick. Wow. So yeah, guys, we're at time. So I just want to use this opportunity to thank everyone for attending who joined us live, and for all of those who are going to be watching in the future on demand. Can't get my words out. Hi. Thank you for your time, and I really do hope that you found this event insightful but also beneficial. And of course, I can't end without actually thanking the amazing speakers for sharing their experiences and expertise with us. So thank you, Elliot, and thank you, Kate. It was really, really good to have you. And always, please leave feedback, as we'd love to know how we're doing, what we've done well, what we can improve, so that we can keep on adjusting. See, we're learning, we test and learn, so that we can bring quality webinars to you. So thank you again, and goodbye. Have a lovely evening or afternoon. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Cheers.